Hello everyone, welcome to the Apocalyst Review of The Gentleman. This movie was first released in January of 2020 and was directed by Guy Ritchie. He has directed many other movies, such as 2019's live-action version of Aladdin. This is what you may refer to as a type of modern, classy gangster movie, and it's in the crime-action genre. So I would say, in some ways, this is a modern take of the type of crime, syndicate, or mobster story that either The Godfather or Miller's Crossing, for example, were trying to tell. Living outside the law, enemies everywhere who want you dead or take what is yours, or both. First of all, I will say that I liked it. I thought that despite the brutal nature of everything going on, that it perhaps made the drug world seem cleaner than I'm guessing it actually is. Don't get me wrong, people were getting wasted the entire time, but I have a feeling that there is a lot less class in the real deal and a lot more killing and asking questions later in the real world. I also felt like there was a lot of risks being taken. A lot of times, these big mobsters didn't have a lot of security around them. Only one or two guys. Seems like when you're living in a world like this, you'd want more people for some of these situations. Heck, for every situation. Scheist, man, you never know when trouble and Kaizen is going to come knocking, and it could be your ace if you're not prepared. To me, the most interesting part of the movie was the interactions between all of these characters and sub-characters. I enjoyed a lot of the witty dialogue that they had going on here, especially Colin Farrell's character. To me, he was one of the highlights of the film. I was laughing almost every time he made an appearance on screen, and loved the way he brandished a Scottish accent like a freaking martial artist wields smooth moves. He was just a lot of fun to watch. Speaking of him, this was a star-studded cast. This is one of those movies where I have to give props to the actors. The acting was just great here and made it clear why many of them are A-list talent. Balls, man, it seemed like nearly everyone was a face you'd recognize. That combined with a well-written and well-executed script made it a lot of fun to just wait and see what these characters were going to say next. There was a decent amount of action, but it was really the personality these characters brought, coupled with the witty humor readily on display, that makes it worth watching. So this is where I'm going to get into spoilers, so spoiler alert, you've been warned. This movie doesn't mess around setting the tone. You see who turns out to be the main character, Mickey, in a nice English pub, where he appears to be blown away in the very first scene. You can tell right away this is going to be one of those movies where you're waiting to see what happens throughout the whole film to lead to that point, which is likely to be worked up to a dramatic climax. It's a technique to capture the audience's attention that, if done well, can not only draw in the viewer, but lead to good twists when the rest of the movie catches up to that point if executed well. We'll see shortly how it turned out. All we know for sure is that it's teasing at the fact that there is going to be mystery, suspense, drug intrigue, classy gangster action, and hitmen. So, a large part of the movie is Charlie Hunnam's character being recanted a tale by Hugh Grant's character. The tale isn't just a nice fireside chat story before bedtime, though. It's also an intricate means of extortion where he's slowly laying out why Matthew McConaughey's character, who is Charlie Hunnam's crime boss, needs to pay him $20 million. Pounds, actually, because the story takes place in the history-laden and magical country of England, baby. I've always liked England and English history, but I digress. Hugh Grant basically says that they need to give him the money, or he's going to instead give his story to the press for the paltry sum of $150,000. He's attempting to rationally argue out via philosophical wit and story that it's in both of their interests for him to not only go to the press, and for them to instead pay him £20 million. This is one large example of the guys in charge being a little softer and, dare I say, more gentlemanly than I would expect drug lords to act. I thought this guy was going to get a bullet. But, or what better way to keep the story from the press and not have to pay him? Sounds like a double bonus for Charlie Hunnam's boss's wallet and reputation. But instead, he hears him out before making him leave peacefully. Essentially, the story is that Matthew McConaughey's character, named Mickey, has had his fun, made his fortune from nothing after a rough and poor childhood, and wants to sell the well-established and highly profitable marijuana empire that he's built. He's been there and done that in all the big ways, and now he's looking forward to quieter days, and perhaps raising some kids. A rival crime boss, who is on good terms with Matthew McConaughey's character, and played by Jeremy Strong, whose character is named Matthew, is interested in buying it. Their interaction is teed off via a wrestle of wits, which the movie describes as something along the lines of sniffing each other's intellectual butts. Ha. After Matthew gets a tour of one of the top secret facilities, of which they have 12 spread across the land of Great Britain, that very one is mysteriously raided by a group of young thugs. This is an example of the surprising softness in the world presented in this movie. The drug-growing compound not only doesn't have any armed guards, apparently, but the door isn't even locked, and the young, diverse group of hooligans walks right in. No trouble. They not only seemingly go in without any weapons, but the defenders come out ready to engage in hand-to-hand combat. A battle royale ensues where the defenders are overrun and the hooligans make off with as much weed as they can fit in their van. So you're telling me these young thugs didn't invade a hostile compound they would be unwelcome in with any guns, and the defenders of the drug compound, who were on their own turf and should have been ready for this type of contingency, didn't bother to whip out any weapons either? I'm confused. Was this underground lair actually Fight Club? I was waiting for Brad Pitt to come out and start telling us the first and second rules of Fight Club. You don't talk about Fight Club. These are basically modern mafia running a multi-million-dollar empire, and they don't care about the law or playing nice, otherwise they'd have day jobs. The thugs take over the compound, and seemingly no one is killed, just beat up. That's nice. But only mildly beat up as they're all able to walk away with a full function of their limbs. Anyways, it was still a transgression that could not go unpunished, so from here, it starts to get serious. I had mentioned already that this is probably not as brutal as you might think, and the guys in charge seem a lot more forgiving than I would imagine them to be in the real world. For example, once they figure out that a rival gangster named Dry Eye I should say, may have been behind the raid, Mickey goes to confront his boss, who is also pretty powerful in the drug world. Mickey says that he'll take care of it. Personally. Personally? Oh boy, you know it's getting really serious now. Instead of killing him, though, Mickey is able to sneak a parasite into his tea that made him extremely sick, with explosive vomit that he spews clear across the room, like it's a scene from The Freaking Exorcist, but then had the cure set down right next to him. It was meant to be a gentlemanly warning, but I can't help but feel that he probably would have just been killed were this real. At the end, it all comes to a head with Dry Eye attempting to rape Mickey's wife, while a simultaneous scene in the movie finally catches up to where the hitman comes and shoots Mickey at the very beginning of the movie, in a Sweet Ace English pub. I thought it was all over, but oh no. The movie had a few tricks up its classy English sleeve. The blood we see flying at the very beginning of the movie isn't from Mickey, but instead it's from the hitman, who is instead blown away at the last second by Mickey's right-hand man. Mickey, who survived the assassination attempt on his life, then hauls his arse to his wife's office and shows up right as Dry Eye is about to forcefully have his way with her, and kills Dry Eye in cold blood right then and there. Things have gotten serious as Mickey now also knows the day's bloody events were orchestrated by Matthew, along with the raid on his well-hidden facility, which was all an attempt to drive down the price of Mickey's drug empire so Matthew could buy cheap. He then tricks Matthew into a meeting where he takes out all his guards and forces him to pay the full price they'd agreed upon, plus damages. All while Mickey gets to keep his drug empire as an added bonus. Mickey then calmly explains that he doesn't care much about the money, but then loses his cool, effectively snapping balls on his ace and screaming in his face at full blast with saliva and strings of mucus flying that when his henchman touched his wife, it got personal. Regaining his composure, he then smoothly, quickly, calmly, and eloquently explains that for that transgression, he needed a whole pound of Matthew's flesh. He didn't care where it came from, but Matthew could either make it happen down to the ounce, or one of his lackeys would choose for him. As harsh as that would be, it still speaks to the softer nature of these crime bosses' actions. Instead of just killing him, he leaves him alive to be a thorn in his side or seek revenge another day. I would recommend this for anyone interested in the crime underworld and a modern take on mobster/gangster movies with a flair of European class. It's a little brutal at times, as one might expect from this type of movie, and unless you go into it expecting that, you might find yourself disappointed. I'd give it 7.5 out of 10. This gets the Matthew Brewski seal of competent for the genre. Despite not being a great movie, and at times their restrained and merciful nature being an odd mix set side by side with all the other harsh things going on, seeming a little hard to believe and reconcile. It was indeed a competent movie for the genre, and as I alluded to previously, the dialogue was really well written and the acting was fantastic. This is the Apocalyst Review of The Gentleman. Thanks for watching.